Hey, GFI family, we are on week 2 of delivering you content. Today we have Daniel Wurzbacher. He is a talent agent, and we want to talk to you about what you do and where you're going from here, because obviously you work in the entertainment industry and it's been halted. What now?
Yeah, it's a pleasure to be on. It is, it's pretty terrible right now when it comes to everything with productions, but it's just that, as you know, the key in business is when something like this happens, you have to pivot, So I'm focusing on like voiceover work for my clients, literary, so like scripts, books, I have content creators like YouTube influencers. People are also rebranding at this time, so there's opportunity for like my graphic designers that I represent. So there's definitely, you just have to do a strong pivot. Like, it's crazy. I live directly across the street. I'm in my home, obviously, right now. I live in a condo right across the street from a CVS and like the Beverly Hills Farmers Market. And CVS is like completely empty. The farmers market is like really limited. I went and bought fruit there this morning, and I got you wouldn't be a Los Angelino without green juice. So, but yeah, it took a really strong pivot. So myself and the other agents have just built around, the show must go on.
And you have such a positive attitude about everything. Before we continue to talk about this COVID virus situation, I kind of want to get into your background. You're a vet, you've run multiple companies, and now you're a talent agent. Could you tell me about your
Yeah.
journey and how you got here?
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah. A talent agent's favorite thing is any sales professional is talking about ourselves. So thank you. And I appreciate you guys taking interest. I'm originally from a very small town, more cows than people in North Carolina, not far away from where I was originally stationed in North Carolina when I joined the Army when I was 17. I dropped out of school when I was in 7th grade, and if your kids are listening, tell them that's really stupid. I started selling things door to door when I was really young. I sold like J.R. Watkins. I sold Avon for a really cool older lady who would be my mentor for a long time before she passed away a few years ago. I joined the Army, which definitely, kind of got my startup capital and everything going for like my first little business. And then I was actually corporate for 5 years at Bank of America and Merrill Lynch, which was bought by Bank of America, obviously. So it's still part of the same umbrella. So I was a banker and a commercial banker and working with businesses. So I went from consumers to businesses. And then I moved into private banking, and then I actually became a stockbroker for Merrill Lynch. So I was corporate for a long time, and with the intention to always move to Hollywood and become a talent agent. I wanted to work for like UTA, CAA, William Morris, and then I ended up I worked for the Music Works, which is with one of the greatest owners and one of the masters of music booking, Greg Schmidt, who's a massive mentor of mine. I just posted about him on my Facebook yesterday, actually. I posted some pictures of when he visited in Phoenix, and we had a wild time. Then I worked for Britta Jackson at the Artistsamongustalentagency Agency, which is the top modeling agency in Minnesota, in Minneapolis, which is a really strong fashion capital. People wouldn't know that. Who taught me so much about. And then I went over to theatrical, where we're a full service agency under Lori Smith at AAUTA, Artists Among Us Talent Agency. She did a lot of work. Her like kind of what I call her claim to fame is she was on a show. Oh my gosh, what is it called? Jim Carrey. I can't believe I can't think of it right now. Jim Carrey, the Williams brothers. Oh my gosh. God, I can't think of it right now. But yeah, she was behind a big show in the 90s It's one of my favorite shows. I can't believe I'm blanking on it. Welcome to being interviewed. And then I worked, I've worked with Lori for a few years and almost 3 years now. And I have a roster of some really strong people. I have some amazing writers, amazing actors and actresses, some amazing kids, as you know, because you gave birth to them. And yeah, and it's fun. I like still being affiliated with a lot of like apparel companies. And magazines. It's nice to. That's really the core of a lot of my business is working with what we call buyers. Those are the buyers of the talent. So those are the people. It's weird with being a talent agent. People are like you. I think a lot of agents forget who their clients are because their clients are not the buyers. The buyers are Macy's, TJ Maxx, McDonald's, like the advertising agencies, the studios, the production companies. Your clients. It's really interesting. This is a big thing I really would like to. I speak on a lot, especially at summits and stuff. Like, I think agents sometimes get lost in the sauce because you have two options, and this is something that like major talent agents have said, like Daniel Day-Lewis's agent, especially like Philip Carlson, who was one of the greatest agents to ever live. I mean, he's up there with like Ari Emanuel and Michael Ovitz at William Morris and CAA and Endeavor. You can either have like 4,000 clients and just click on like Casting Frontiers, LA Castings, Casting Networks, Breakdown Services, which is for my actors out there is Actors Access Agents. We call it Breakdown Services, BDS. And they just click and click and click. But I've taken the route where instead of having all those clients, I just focus on like a really strong max 100 clients, for at least for each department. I have like my touring musicians, my comedians, my theatrical, which is one of my favorite departments. And my other clients are listening. I love all the departments. But theatrical is, it's where the magic happens. And I watched Jerry Maguire when I was 9 with my dad. And with my father, who's a massive, massive critical part of my success, both in sales and in business. I watched him be, one of the #1 life insurance agents growing up, and an oil and gas landman, where he really taught me like the value of the sales profession, which is what talent agents are. I think people forget. We would be absolutely nothing without our product, which is the art that the artists produce. And that's for my models and everybody. It's all art. It's all creative endeavors. And I saw that when I was a kid. I saw Tom Cruise act all crazy, and I told my dad, he said, I said, I think that's what I want to do. And, my dad was always trying to cultivate what I want to do. I told him I wanted to join the military, but I wanted to be in entertainment. And he was really supportive of that my whole life. And I think that played a really critical role. We were sitting in a restaurant in Birmingham, Alabama at the time, where I grew up in a couple different places in the South, West Virginia, even southern Pennsylvania, which, believe me, if there's any southern Pennsylvanians watching, they know that that's the South. Two different worlds, North and South Pennsylvania. And we were sitting in a place called J. Alexander's, and my dad would take me out for like these kind of coaching, father and son sessions at a place, really great restaurant called J. Alexander's. You should try it.
Yum.
And I said, I think I want to do what Tom Cruise does in that movie, And he said, well, you gotta tell me right now. I mean, are you able to scream, "Show me the money," And so, as a 9-year-old kid, I'm "Show me the money," in the middle of J. Alexander's. And he was like, you can do anything you put your mind up to, he always, he was really supportive, which played a really big role. My mother also owned an art gallery when I was growing up. So in Durham, North Carolina, in the Durham Mall, and I got to watch her like sell art. My mother was also an artist, so I'd watch her paint, and then I would follow her around the gallery and watch her sell it.
So that Yeah.
regardless of how much vodka she was consuming during while she was working, she sold a lot of art.
So, so that creativity kind of just flows through you, and your parents have fostered that environment, which, since you plugged it in there, I kind of want to touch on this a little bit, how you treat your artists. You know, you plugged my kids in there, and I remember the first time I actually reached out to you was via Facebook, because my daughter was like, you know, she's like, I'm going to be the next Iron Man. You know, let's make it happen. And so I saw
Yeah.
you had posted about one of your clients. So I asked you a question. What would you recommend to someone wanting to break into that industry? And I remember your advice clearly was taking a chance on yourself, being confident, and going in there. So the first people that I went for was your talent agency. And you guys have been so kind, so caring, and just really cultivating this culture of, I care more about the client than you know, the person buying the client, so to speak.
Yeah.
That investment that you're doing, which now that you've shared some of your past, I can see comes from your father. Do you take that ideology everywhere you go? Do you do that with your own parenting? Do you do that with your other businesses? What do you recommend for people to have that same mindset, and how successful is it for you? Do you think you make more sales as a result of it?
Oh, most definitely. I think my father taught me to be extremely, my mother as well, but my father, if anybody was ever saying anything about him, he can make oil and gas exciting. So I think that's saying something. You know, my dad asked, he told me when I left for the military when I was 17, he was training me and getting me ready for basic training to join the army, just like he was, and my brother was in as well, my older brother. And he said, I only ask for a couple things for you to do in life. Um, please wake up before the sun, you know. And he's like, and please don't be lazy, and try to outwork them, even if they're smarter than you. Try to outwork them, because I believe you can. And he said, please be enthusiastic about what you're doing, and don't ever forget to be tenacious and absolutely unreasonable in your judgment and what you're trying to do. And I've really tried to bring that both into my talent agent career, as well as I have a financial brokerage as well. I come from the finance background with Bank of America and Merrill Lynch and Comerica Bank. So that is, I definitely believe that is something. I get very close to my clients as a very as an amazing one of my clients. If he watches this, he knows who he is. I'm very close to a lot of them. I'm very lucky to have you know, one of the greatest actors, I think, of our generation to come out of London. Another Canadian, who I won't say his name, but he was in Star Trek. You know, I'm incredibly close, to say the least, with them, and I advise them on their careers and jobs and contracts the way that they advise me. You know, I'm open. I really try to stay open to critique, open to constructive criticism. You know, and I've had actors who have helped me in sits, because who better to teach you how to act than an actor or an actress, you know? So I definitely believe it's benefited me very much. I'm also one of those very few talent agents. I mean, I'm definitely, you know, I don't have, I believe that I deeply believe that I will have some of the biggest stars in the world. You know, I just turned 30. You know, I've been building my roster for a while, my Rolodex, as we say, for a while, with buyers and producers and studio executives and stuff like that. But the biggest thing is that I will respond to any message. And I think anyone who watches this, who has tried to reach out to me, they know that I'll at least say, send me a reel, send me a resume, you know. As a really great talent agent, I know Greg Schmidt says, send me a reel to show me your reel, you know. And I definitely, just like I wanted an agency to give me a chance to work for them, I try to do the same. And I made a big commitment when I first really got into Hollywood, and I sat down at my desk with my headset on, and and I just started calling buyers and signing clients. I mean, I was like, they gave me the opportunity to do what I really wanted and my absolute dream. I mean, because I was a talent agent for free when I first started, and people asked me if money wasn't a thing, what would you do? And I was like, I truly, and I think a lot of agents would agree with this with me. I would still do it for free. Like I love it. I love it that much. I actually am one of the crazy people that love being berated on the phone and negotiating on the phone. And you'd be surprised when people say it's crazy working from home. That's pretty much the majority of what I do is reading a lot of scripts and trying to sweeten a lot of deals and making it happen. I think the biggest thing I would say, not to be long-winded on this answer, I think people said, my father asked me, he said, okay, what's your value proposition? What's your mission statement as a talent agent? And I said, well, I'm going to get you a job. And he's like, yeah, but you don't want that on your gravestone, do you? He got a lot of people jobs. You know what I mean? That doesn't sound that good, right? And I was like, well, yeah, Dad, I guess you're right. And he said, how about Daniel made a lot of people with dreams believe that it was possible.
That's beautiful.
I love that. I love that. Yeah, I wish I could take credit for it, but it's the older, better looking version of me. But anyone that knows my dad knows it. My dad is literally he's not a silver fox, he's the silver fox. So,
Wow.
so he's a very enthusiastic, tenacious.
I'll be honest with you. I don't know who can out enthusiastic you, because we're sitting in the middle of this crisis and you're so happy and you're telling all these great stories.
Yeah, that's how we earn our 10%, man. Yeah. We only cry in private, never let them see you cry, I believe that, I think this too shall pass, I think Hollywood's gone through a lot of issues. I think the music industry has gone through a lot of issues. We've seen a recession before in our life, and people still want to be entertained, and I think people are not only wanting to see art, I think that even like people like you that are putting out great content at this traumatic time is during this crisis I think people need it now. I think people need, and I think artists are really banding together, including my clients and yourself. I mean, you guys, everyone's taking time to if they're not training, they're putting out more content, more art. And I think it's interesting, food service workers and doctors are really saving people right now, but I think artists are really saving lives to a lot of people in this uncertain time. So art is at times that are the darkest. I think the artists out there really get a real time to shine right now, and they actually get to really not just entertain, but really help people eat spiritually, make them spiritually fed, So it's I have a lot of respect for everyone that's still like yourself and many others that are still out there fighting the good fight during all of this. But yeah.
Well, mental health and emotional health are very important during this time. It's something that we don't take care of as a society. We, hashtag self-care. We do not do it enough, and now we have the time to do it. Some things I've gotten from your story is that there was a struggle. I mean, you could be a Lifetime movie is what I'm getting at. Like, you're living the American dream. There was a struggle. There are millions of people out there wanting to do exactly what you do. When they feel like giving up, what advice would you give them?
Yeah, that's a great question. I try to never respond to a question with that answer, but that is legitimately a great question. I think that if you're not doing something that makes it where you want it more than you can breathe, like as parents, right? We want to protect and educate and train, and raise our children more than we actually want to take care of ourselves. Like, we'll give them the food before we eat. Like, we want them to be happy more than we want to breathe, right?
Yeah.
And we want to breathe to live. So when we begin drowning or choking, we want to breathe really bad, right? It's a pretty big part of living. I think I ask people all the time, I go, are you a good actor? Yes. Okay. I appreciate the confidence, right? Mm-hmm. what are you obsessed about? You know, what do you want to do more than you can breathe? And they go, well, I have a book, and then I'm a host, and then I'm an actor, but acting's what I care about most of all. And I'm like, then you should cut out everything else and just focus on doing just that. I think like there's a Charles Bukowski poem that's called "Go All the Way," and he says in it, who believe me, I would never think that Charles Bukowski would be motivating like this, but he says sometimes it takes being homeless, sometimes it takes living on a park bench, sometimes it takes losing girlfriends and wives and friends. And I believe that if you truly protect your dream, and you know, and you absolutely, and I say this, and if anyone watching this, if I could express anything so deeply that I so much care about, it would be believing that it is incredibly possible. And I think that if you can remember that, I think you build a team around it. You get a good agent, you get a good publicist. That's a good one. And you get a good manager, and you get a good, I don't want to go on to personal life, but I believe very much in having a partner in your life that supports you and takes care of you, or, you know, and the ones that are negative, that say that they can't do it, or that you can't do it. I say they can't do it because the only reason someone tells someone that they can't do it is because they can't do it. You know what I mean? And that's the same thing when they were like, oh, Steve, don't start a computer company. Those things don't sell. You should be a life insurance agent. Well, we see how that works out. You know, I'm talking to you on 2 different Apple products right now. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I think believing that it's possible, as cheesy and easy as I make it sound, it is, I think that is a really hard thing to change our subconscious mind to go, oh, I can do it, you know? And I think it takes, like my father said, I think it takes extremely hard work. I think it takes more than dedication. I got it through being absolutely obsessed. Like I had one client, and I used to just fight tooth and nail to get any part, you know, commercial, indie movie, college film, anything. I try to break things down really simply. I go, just put them on screen, Daniel. I don't care what it is. Don't take your commission at it. Just put them on screen. As long as they're working, then you're doing your job. As long as they have a job, I'm doing my job, you know? But I think that comes down to believing that it's possible. And I think I was told it at a really young age. I'm very lucky to have a champion in my life like that. And you want to talk about, I'll go on that in another interview, but talk about a guy that believed it was possible. Yeah, is an incredible. He has a much more incredible story than my father. But yeah, so I think I think when you hear it that young, it sounds a lot easier than as you get tested through life. I think, and the kids and the divorces and the no's, God, the no's. I get told no, I don't want to cuss, like 100 times a day, you know, and I've grown to just, I am so comfortable with being uncomfortable, because like being on screen, man, or being on stage, for stage actors, oh my God, I have so much respect for all my clients, but you know, we all grow from being, discomfort equals growth, right? And it's just being uncomfortable. Sitting in front of studio heads and pitching my heart out about a client is uncomfortable, because they're looking at their watch, and you got to really believe that it's possible then, because that's what, to quote Chicago, that my father actually introduced to me. So if you ever saw him, you would never know that he loves Broadway that much. He said, sometimes all you got to do is give him the old razzle dazzle, you know what I mean? And you got to really believe it's possible then. And I think that's the same for anyone pursuing whoever's watching this, pursuing any profession. You got to, that's number one. You got to believe that it's possible. And you got to be obsessed, man. I mean, I'm a big believer in like, I watch a lot of like Grant Cardone. He's a big, Grant Cardone's wonderful, man. Yeah, I'm actually really lucky. The partner of my financial firm actually used to work at his office. So West Point grad too. Yeah, Army officer, really, really smart cat. We met on a trading floor, and professionally have been in love ever since. So, so he manages the bulk of the financial side, but and I do as well. It's a big part of my time, what consumes my time with work. But yeah, I think believing that it's possible and really being obsessed, like Grant Cardone and Jordan Belfort says.
I think you are just like this classic person. You're listing out pretty much my entire movie repertoire from when I was a kid and all my favorite actors and actresses. And I think that's fantastic. I think it really shows in your work. And oftentimes, guys, we're hearing from the actors and the talent, but we're not hearing behind the scenes of the people who put them in their jobs like Daniel does. He gives them a job and a purpose. And, you know, you see the stereotypical movies where you're like, they don't care. They don't do much. He's working his butt off to make sure that people are working. He thinks about them all the time. If you've ever been on his Facebook page, he's constantly bragging about his clients. He's like the proudest parent you will ever see on the block. Let's put it that way. You don't have just 2 kids. You've got like a million going on, and you're really just going places. As we're getting into 2020 and this COVID virus has reshaped the way that we think, what is next for you? What are you doing to push forward? And one question I ask everybody that comes on this show, what is your go for it? And how are you going to drive momentum to hit your next level?
Man, yeah. Yeah, some good questions on here. So one word that we've really focused on both at the agency and at the firm, the financial brokerage, is one of my business partner who I mentioned, the West Point guy, Michael Martin. He said he came in and he just wrote right on the whiteboard, pivot, to change positions to a highly more beneficial route, you know, and to change positions and pivot, to pivot, you know, and we really have tried to really emphasize on that, and really, especially in my meditations in the morning, I'm like, pivot, we're going to pivot, you know, we're just going to eat, move, pivot, you know, and with 2 different things on the agency side. Hollywood ain't gonna stop. Just like American businesses, we'll fight. You know, we'll build from the rubble. It's what we do. As you know, being around all the military you have in your life, we're gonna drink water and drive on, right? Mm-hmm. And we're gonna get through it. But most importantly, on the financial brokerage side, we have switched strictly to things that benefit the distressed and getting people relief and security, you know. So we've moved over to like private equity options, hard assets. I won't go into much detail. Getting people in a secure position, getting people safe, and giving people relief in these times. And there's a lot of things out there that, you know, thanks to some good people upstairs that have made it to where people are getting relief on their mortgages, people are getting relief on their debt during this, people are getting deferred, people are getting SBA loans, even though it shut down yesterday for more funding. On the agency side, you know, voiceover work, literary work, graphic designing work. People are still needing costumes made that people can make from home. So my costume designers are at work. Photographers, my photographers are still going out and getting amazing shots through this time. So photographers that are watching, how many times do you get a completely empty canvas of nobody outside, or catching the grit, which is one of my favorite people. He's not a signed exclusive client of mine, but he's one of my big heroes. He was actually a U.S. Army Ranger in the 75th Ranger Battalion, Ranger Regiment. David Leslie Anthony. He's taking time. He's still working right now. People are still calling him for work right now. There's a lot of opportunities outside right now. How many times can you get a bunch of people walking around with masks on and with their kids and their grocery shopping, and they're just stressed? I mean, because people are outside right now, even at the farmers market. I mean, you want to get some crazies. Anyone that lives in LA, you can go over to the Beverly Hills Farmers Market, and a bunch of amazing people there too, like myself this morning. you can really see, you know, people are in a psychosis, man. People are in a state of fight or flight. They're not in a parasympathetic mode, and you know, they're afraid. They're afraid for their kids. They're afraid for their health. They're afraid of people coughing. There's people being, I won't get into what I think about it, but there's people that want to be 6 feet apart, you know. It's a really crazy time out there right now. So we had to pivot. We had to pivot. As in, I cannot commend Michael Martin anymore for being such a great business leader during this time and being an amazing business partner. He's actually doing stuff on the entertainment side. I won't put his business out there, but he's definitely anybody that would anybody would be lucky to have him as a manager or an agent, taking care of their career. But anyway, he said to pivot, we must pivot, and we have to keep on going. If my clients have a job, then I've done my job, you know. And if on the financial side, if my clients are making money and they're saving money and they're protecting their money, then I've done my job. So we just had to pivot. So I don't think I can say that any more clearly.
I think your story is amazing, Daniel. I believe 100% in what you're doing. And I don't know if you know much about my company. I know I've mentioned it a little bit to you before. GFI Apparel is growing tremendously since I've taken it over. It's expanding internationally. And so a lot of the times I want to leave things open-ended for guests or leave them with special gifts for coming on, so to speak. I just want to throw it out there. If you ever decide you want to create your own brand, we're an open platform for you. Our graphic designers, our team is at your full disclosure, so to speak, because I believe that there should be more people in the world just like you. And for everybody at the GFI family, this is Daniel. He achieved his dreams at a very young age. He did not give up. I mean, seriously, this really needs to be another Lifetime movie. Quits at 7th grade, does a bunch of sales, and moves on to being a talent agent that actually cares about people. This is Jerry Maguire on steroids. I'm just going to say that. So I am really glad that you came on to be a guest of this show. Thank you very much. And thank you for telling our audience out there how to never give up, how to pivot and still make your dreams happen in these crazy times.
Thank you. Thank you. It's a pleasure being on. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.